Good morning, New York City. First on today's United States news, we have Mr. and Mrs. John Adams' soiree last evening. The Washingtons were in attendance, information that had not been disclosed earlier, and whose arrival caused much excitement. Mrs. Washington outshone every other lady there, and the today's United States news humbly asked President Washington to consider funding to U.S. News. Thank you. Next up, we have the national debt. As Secretary of the Treasury, Alexander Hamilton has many ideas regarding the public credit, but many citizens have been asking, who is Hamilton? Where did he come from? This stunningly brilliant, well-educated man had to come from notable roots, yes? Well, after much digging around, the TOS News has answers. Hamilton was born illegitimately to a poor Scottish aristocrat and a planter's daughter in the West Indies. His mother, Rachel Fawcett Lavian, was married unhappily to a different man, as arranged by her mother. Hamilton's father, James Hamilton, abandoned his two illegitimate sons, James Jr. and Alexander, with their mother when Alexander was 10 years old. Despite this, Hamilton never spoke ill of his father, but rather with pity. As the fourth son of an aristocrat and lazy in manner, his father never amounted to much. Hamilton was educated at home by his extremely bright mother, but mostly was self-taught, much like Benjamin Franklin. Hamilton's mother died when he was 13 years old. Hamilton journeyed to New York in 1772, sponsored by people on the island who recognized his intelligence, and there became successful and quite wealthy. He fought in the Revolutionary War and even outfitted his own regiment of men with money from his own coffers with the finest of uniforms and weapons. He was also one of our country's founding fathers and was deeply involved in the creation of the new Constitution and the Bill of Rights, despite his tender age of 32 years. When George Washington was elected president under the Constitution, he needed to appoint secretaries of each department, the group who later became known as the Cabinet. He chose Hamilton as the Secretary of the Treasury, Henry Knox as the Secretary of War, Edmund Randolph as Attorney General, and Thomas Jefferson as the Secretary of State. Hamilton and Jefferson have always had extreme differences of opinion, but as they both worked closely with Washington to determine the future of the nation, those differences become all the more obvious. Now, with a large national debt and the country splitting into political parties, tempers are rising, but Hamilton may know just what to do. After the Revolution, our country's economy was in shambles, with inflation and many debts owed to the states and to the soldiers. The IOUs given out during the war became nearly worthless as the government didn't seem keen on paying them back anytime soon. Hamilton's plan is this. By borrowing a lot of money to pay back these old debts, the federal government would strengthen itself. As he said, a national debt, if it is not excessive, will be to us a national blessing. It will be a powerful cement to our union. It will also create a necessity for keeping up taxation to a degree which, without being oppressive, will be a spur to industry. Hamilton wants to issue securities or bonds to fund the effort to pay back the public credit. He also believes that a national bank will help to stabilize the shaky economy with a national paper currency. Washington is, as he often is, of the same opinion as Hamilton. As a very important source of strength and security, cherish public credit. One method of preserving it is to use it as sparingly as possible, avoiding occasions of expense by cultivating peace. Not only does Washington support the use of national debt to improve our country's economy, he is also resolute in his opinions of neutrality. Not everyone believes that Hamilton will be able to accomplish this, though. Jefferson, always against Hamilton's views and policies, says that Hamilton is so bewitched and perverted by the British example as to be under thorough conviction that corruption is essential to the government of the nation. Jefferson believes that Hamilton proposes ideas such as his financial plan, not for the good of the nation, but for personal gain. That's all for today, ladies and gents. Stay tuned for the rest of the week for more information on how Hamilton's plan is progressing and on Washington's neutrality policies. Also, there will be more on political parties, strengthening or weakening our country, later this week.